Hello Philippines and hello world. It's February 6, 2021 and as promised, 9.09er is going to offer a free Ielts and OET listening masterclass. So this is going to run for 1 hour. Now, I'd like to invite you to message your friends. Guys, this is totally free of charge. We're not going to collect any fees after this one. We're doing this because we want to help you in getting your required band scores. So maybe we'll wait for the others to join our meeting room. We'll allot 5 minutes for that. So I'm Sir Irvin of 9.09er, teaching IELTS since 2006. So I'm going to discuss the IELTS part. With me for tonight is...
Philip. Hello, my name is Philip. I'm a lecturer at 9.09er. I've been teaching the IELTS. I've been teaching here at the center for quite a long time as well. I shall be discussing, for my part, the listening subtest for the occupational English test, or more popularly known as the OET.
Okay, so while waiting for the others, I want everyone to know this is just the first of a series of master classes that we'll be doing in the next few weeks. So what's the next one? Next week, Saturday, February 13, that's 1 p.m., IELTS and OET Reading Masterclass. 2 weeks after that, February 28, we're going to do an IELTS and OET Speaking Masterclass. The following week, that's March 6, we'll be doing IELTS and OET Writing Masterclass. So we're going to cover all the 4 subtests of both English examinations. So before we start, maybe we can ask the people where they are coming from. Let's take a look at the locations of our audience for tonight. Where are you guys from? So there's a hi, Sir Irvin from Seth Fortalez. There's Mabeth Bonga tagging AJ Gutierrez. Sorry, both of us have poor eyesight, okay? Mine is 375, nearsighted. Sir Philip's eye grade is?
290.
290. So we need to squint a little bit from time to time. Our outline is over there. We have to look at the laptop from time to time. So this is going to run for an hour. And later, we're going to answer questions. We're going to allot 15 minutes to address your concerns and queries. So we have participants from Ireland, San Jose del Monte, Bulacan, Pampanga, Kawit, Cavite, and of course, my bibi, Ralph Gerald Nakua from Batangas, Sorsogon, Hugs from Tagaytay, Abu Dhabi, Baguio, enrolled last January 28. We still have time. We'll just wait for the others because we don't want them to miss a significant portion of the discussion. Cebu. Do we have anyone from Mindanao? Apparently, we have a lot of attendees from NCR, Luzon, Visayas, and Middle East. Okay. So Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Another attendee from KSA.
Kuwait.
Oh, we already have 361 inside the meeting room. Thank you, guys. So this is a feel-good class, okay? Only good vibes allowed for tonight. Riyadh, Cavite, QC. Asa naman ang mga taga Mindanao diha? Davao, Jensan, Cotabato, Zamboanga, Pagadian, Dipolog, Ozamis, Cagayan de Oro, Bukidnon.
Wow, Cagayan North.
Well, that's Region 2.
Oh, wait. Timbuktu. Oh, Rothschild.
Watching from Abu Dhabi. Okay, so while waiting for the others, let's take a look at the outline. I'll just mention the outline for tonight. So we'll start with the format of OET listening and IELTS listening, to be followed by the point system. So what's the equivalent of 7 in IELTS and what's the equivalent of? Well, because in IELTS, they are graded numerically. Whereas in OET, you are graded with A being the highest and the lowest is?
E.
E is the lowest.
Or is it F? We don't think about the lowest, actually.
Yeah, because we want you to get the passing score and the perfect score. Next to that, we're going to talk about the time allotment. And then Pardon us for squinting.
Passing
The
score.
passing score per destination and visa. We are going to talk about the main problem. So even if this is the easiest of all the subtests, this is not a giveaway. Still, it's challenging for people who come unprepared. So what do you expect for tonight? We're going to provide you with the arsenal, the weaponry that will allow you to maximize your chances of making it in the exam. And voila, after the examination, you say, behold the benevolence of the Lord. But remember, it's not God taking the examination, it's you. You have to put in the economy of sacrifice and preparation. And then we're going to talk about the solutions. Solutions that you can do on your own and solutions that 9.09er has to offer. What else? And we'll also talk about remark and combination of results. How possible is it for you to challenge your grade in listening? And what are the chances that you're going to get an increase after remark? And combination of results. So did you know that US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, all four of them allow combination of multiple results. Some of them accept 2 results, the others 4 results. However, if you are targeting Canada or Ireland, I'm sorry to inform you that these 2 countries do not accept combination. So all that and more for tonight, totally free of charge. So how many do we have? Oh, 531.
Impressive.
Thank you so much. Now, let me double check. I guess that's enough time to wait for the others. If some of your friends would like to join us, no problem. They can join us anytime. And what's the good news? If you're going to do something in the next few minutes or in the next hour or so, nothing to worry because we're going to post this on our Facebook page. Now, let me just encourage the participants to bring out their pen and paper. Note taking, we encourage that. Why? The human mind definitely is not perfect. To err is part of human nature. Human as we are, we commit mistakes. We cannot remember everything, but pen and paper will never forget. So will you please get your pen and paper because we're going to have a good time for tonight. So, Sir Philip, would you like to talk about Oet first, or should I talk about Ielts first? What do you think?
Well, how about you first, Sir Irvin?
Okay, so let me begin by mentioning that Ielts is accepted in the following destinations: US, UK, Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So which visas require English exams? Fiancé visa, spouse visa, immigrant visa, working visa, and student visa. The only visa that does not require an English examination is tourist visa. So imagine, you're looking for a fiancé, you're looking for a spouse, and voila, you still need to pass an English examination. That's how important English proficiency is. So, OET, Occupational English Test, is not for everyone. What's letter O? It means occupation. So OET is intended for the healthcare workers planning to work, planning to study, or planning to migrate to UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand. So now, you're going to ask me, sir, what if I'm not decided yet? Which one would you recommend? Ask yourself first. Are you the kind of person who's already 100% sure that you're going to US or Canada? That's when I'd recommend you to take Ielts. However, if you're part of the 99% of the population, totally undecided, the only thing that you're sure of, I want to go abroad within the year. My New Year's resolution for 2021, I have to be somewhere else other than the Philippines. So, Ielts is recommended if you're going to US or Canada. If you're going to UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, perhaps after the masterclass, we'll help them decide which English examination is better for them. So now let's talk about the format of the listening subtest. So this is the official start of our masterclass. We don't want to waste your time. So here we go. Listening is the first subtest in the written exams. It's further subdivided into 4 parts of varying difficulty. Now, what exactly do we mean when we say varying? The expectation is the first part or section is usually the easiest. And as sections progress, the difficulty also increases. Now, I'd like everyone to get the perfect score in the first 2 sections so that they're going to pull up your overall grade in the listening subtest. The 3rd and 4th sections are deemed to be the most challenging of them all. Now, how many points are there per section in Ielts listening? 10. So if you do the math, 40 points in the listening subtest. That's for the format and the points. What about the time? So, the listening test, the supervisor will allow you to listen to the recording for 30 minutes. For paper-based Ielts, though, the test supervisor will allow you to transfer your answers from the test booklet to the answer sheet. Well, that's because you're provided with booklet and answer sheet. However, for computer-delivered Ielts, what we've noticed in the last 2 years or 3 years of our reviewees taking computer-delivered Ielts worldwide, some of them mentioned, "Sir, the test supervisor just gave us 2 minutes to transfer, or rather, to review our work." Remember, you don't transfer your answer anymore because in the first place, you type the answer directly to the computer. You have to look at the monitor. Now, what about the bad score equivalence? So, a lot of people are targeting 7. It's not as if this is the passing score for everyone because IELTS is not a pass or fail examination. The moment you get a hold of your IELTS result, it won't tell you, "Congratulations, you passed the exam." Or your IELTS result won't tell you, "Sorry, better luck next time." What is it that your IELTS result will tell you? Here's your score when you took the test. It's possible that you got the required band score for US, but your scores are not enough for Australia and New Zealand. That is why here we are telling you there is no fixed passing score in the IELTS. But if you want plenty of opportunities overseas, we recommend 7. What then is the equivalent of 7? If 40 is a perfect score, that's 9.0. 7, around 30 to 31. Sometimes, if the material is difficult, they adjust 7. So the level of difficulty will determine the band score equivalence. There are certain instances when 7 is 32 or 33. There are also certain instances when 7 is a 29 or 30. That's why for most of you, if you're having a difficulty in the listening test, and after the examination, you feel sad, you feel depressed, "I didn't really do well. That's the end of my dream." No worries, because if the material is difficult, there is a chance, there is a probability that the equivalent of 7 is just 29 or 30. But for some people, they're dangerously confident after the examination and they feel that, "Oh, that was so easy." Well, let's see when the results come out, because if the material is relatively easy, that's when they change the band score equivalence to 32 or 33. Now you're going to ask, so how did you get that? Where did you learn that information? Well, for those of you who do not know yet, almost half of my life I have devoted to this examination. I've started teaching in 2006. Now it's 2021, 15 years of IELTS expertise. And in the Philippines, there are 35 IELTS examiners. I have met more than 20 of them. I've participated in workshops. And this is what we do. What we share in class is what we have learned from the examiners that we have encountered in the last decade or so. So, for the listening subtest 7, around 30, 31. What about 6, which is the target of those going to the United States of America? It's not really the passing score, but it's safe if you get 6. So what's 6? 24 to 26 out of 40. What else did I miss? I talked about the format, the point system, the time. Later, I'll focus on the passing score per destination and per visa. Meanwhile, I'll turn you over to Sir Philip as he is going to talk about OET listening. Sir Philip, the floor is yours, and let's inspire and enlighten our 688 attendees for tonight.
Thank you very much, Sir Irvin, for this wonderful overview regarding the listening subtest when it comes to the IELTS. When it comes to the OET, on the other hand, it's actually very similar. The listening subtest for the OET also has 3 subtests. A, B, and C. They present a range of healthcare situations where listening is used. The first part, listening part A, presents consultations between a healthcare professional on one hand and a layperson on the other. This simulates how in the real world we spend quite a lot of time listening to people, listening to our patients who use slang, who use informal speech, and we take down notes regarding what they say. this part is the easiest part and comprise majority of your grade. This focus on the abundance of points that can be had from this first and easiest part, as again goes to show how patient-centered communication is really the focus of healthcare. This part has 24 points, and which is majority when you think about when you realize that the total points for the OET listening is 42. After part A, wherein a consultation between a healthcare professional and a patient can be heard, part B, on the other hand, presents workplace extracts. This part has 6 points. You will be hearing handovers of different healthcare professionals from one shift to the other, for example, or perhaps a healthcare professional, a dietitian, a nurse, a pharmacist talking to a patient and providing perhaps some healthcare information, some patient teaching, and things like this. In contrast to part A, wherein the candidate would have to write down the answer to simulate note-taking happening in the real world. In part B, similar to part C, it's going to be multiple choice. It's gonna be there will be bubbles, A, B, C, that the candidate would need to shade, and it would be a Scantron machine, in contrast to the human person who checks your work in part A, that checks your work here. So this part has 6 points, and it's over relatively quickly. The last part, the most difficult part of your listening test, is part C, where you will be hearing either a presentation, a healthcare professional by himself talking at length regarding an accessible healthcare topic, or it's going to be an interview where this healthcare professional will be asked several questions by an interviewer regarding, again, a healthcare topic. This is the reason why the OET has 3 parts is because you are being assessed regarding your listening in 3 ways, because we listen in different ways. In part A, you're being assessed for how well you listen for specific information. Listening, for example, for a word or two, things like that. Like, when did the colonoscopy happen, etc. How many grams was the metformin? A word or two is good enough. On the other hand, for part B, it's your ability to listen for gists, for the general idea of what is being said that is assessed, and therefore you have to listen to a sentence or two. On the other hand, for part C, in which extended opinions are being discussed, you have to listen to sentences. So you would notice that the parts in OET are arranged in increasing level of difficulty. It becomes harder and harder, not only in terms of the vocabulary that you need to be familiar with, the concepts ranging from the personal and general to the more abstract and research-focused ones, but also because of the attention span that needs to be devoted in order for you to do well in this test. So, part A has 24 points, part B has 6 points, part C has 12 points. If you do the math, if you add them all up, it's 42. Now, the question that is commonly asked is, sir, how many points do we need to pass? For the vast majority of people, the answer to that is you need to get a B in listening. In Ireland, it's possible for you to not get a B if we will discuss this later on in greater detail. The question here is, what grade out of 42 allows you to get a B? Well, usually, meaning not always, but usually the answer to that is 30. 30 out of 42, usually, but not always, allows you to get a B. However, just like in the Ielts exam, the level of difficulty of the OET influences your grade boundaries. Remember that the test you're taking is an English test. So therefore, it should be your English that determines your score. If you're good in English, you should get a high score. If you're not so good at English, then you should get a lower score. However, precisely because the level of difficulty of the exam shifts, then there needs to be an adjustment to be made. Can you imagine if the exam was easy, then a person gets a higher grade, and if the exam is harder, a person gets a lower grade? If there is no way, if there is no mechanism that allows for a level playing field due to this, then that means that the what determines your score is no longer your ability, but rather luck, but rather fortune, but rather the test. And OET doesn't want that to happen, similarly to the IELTS. And that is why the equivalent for B in the OET adjusts. Usually it's 30. However, if it's harder than usual, 29 or 28. If it's easier than usual, a 31 or 32. This should be very reassuring for you, because at least because you know that the final grade that you're going to get will take into consideration the level of difficulty of the unique test that you get. This means that it is your preparation, your proficiency that would determine your grade, not extraneous things like where you took it or when you took it, etc. This whole experience lasts roughly 40 minutes, in which the audio will be played once only, and you're expected to write down your answers as you hear it. You will be given 2 minutes at the end of this in order for you to check your answers, to go back to see whether you shaded the bubbles correctly, etc. And at the end of that, it is that's it. That's done. Now, as Sir Irvin mentioned earlier, and I would like to highlight as well, the fact that the level of difficulty is incorporated should be very comforting, because the listening test is the first of many written tests that you're going to be taking. It's listening, then reading, then writing. If you feel so crestfallen, so disheartened, so discouraged, oh God, I didn't do well there, because you got a hard version of the test, if you forget, for example, that the band score will be adjusted, if you feel so bad in your listening, this might snowball into your reading. It might negatively affect your performance, and then you do poorly in reading, and this also cascades to your writing. So you see, this is a process that we want to avoid, and part of the way that we address that is by remembering that, you know what, sometimes you think you did not do well, but actually you're pretty okay. Managing your anxiety and your emotions are truly an important part of doing well in your exam. So knowing this knowledge, we hope, is comforting, and hopefully you keep them in mind when you take your own test. Sir Irvin?
Okay, guys. Recap. IELTS listening, 4 parts. OET listening, 3 parts. IELTS listening, 10 points per section for a grand total of 40 points. OET listening, Part A, 24 points. Part B, 6 points. And Part C, 12 points for a grand total of 42 points. What about the time allotment? IELTS listening, 30 minutes to listen to the recording, answer the questions, and transfer your answers. You'll be given 10 extra minutes for paper-based IELTS for you to transfer your answers. So 30 minutes plus 10 minutes. In OET, it's roughly 40 minutes. So that wraps up the first part of the discussion. Now, let's move on to the most important question. What score am I supposed to get in order for me to be granted a visa? So let's begin with USA, followed by Canada. And later, we're going to talk about the 4 countries that accept both IELTS and OET. So let's begin with the United States of America. If you are applying for US visa screen, if you're a healthcare worker, then what is the target? A 7 in speaking, 6.5 overall band score, regardless. Let me emphasize on the word regardless of your grades in listening, reading, and writing. It does not matter for as long as your overall band score and speaking grades are enough. The question, how to get 6.5 overall band score? Well, we recommend a 7 in speaking, a 6 in listening, a 6 in reading, and a 6 in writing. Why? Because if you do the mathematics, the average there is what? 6.25. What IELTS system does is to round it up to the next 0.5. So 6.25 rounded up to 6.5. So guys, if you're targeting America, please do everything in your capacity to get 24 to 26 correct answers out of 40 points. However, we don't really recommend you to be satisfied with 6 or 7. Why? Listening is the easiest of all the subtests. Knowing that, you don't have to write an essay. You're not going to respond to any question. All answers will be mentioned by the speaker. All you have to do is to take note of the answers. So we encourage everyone to get a 9.0 in listening so that the moment you get a hold of your Ielts result, you can announce to the whole wide world, hey, I am a 9er. Well, it's not really for visa application purposes, but for personal gratification, for self-bragging rights. We encourage you to get 9 in at least one of the 4 subtests. And if you want to call yourself a 9er in IELTS, it is best that you get the perfect grade in listening. Now, let's talk about US. What if, when you look at your score, it's 5.5 in listening? Question, can you still go to the United States of America? The answer is yes, provided that one subtest must pull you up. So how to get 6.5 overall band score if your listening is 5.5? Let's do it this way, guys. 5.5 in listening, 6 in reading, 6.5 in writing, 7 in speaking. That will still give you 6.5 overall band score. But what if you're going to ask me, sir, my grade in listening is 5. Can I still go to the United States of America? Of course, for as long as your listening is 5, your reading is 6.5, your writing is 6.5, and your speaking is 7, still that is 6.5 overall band score. Let's move on to Canada. For Canada, there's working visa, there's immigrant visa, and there's student visa. So let's begin with student visa. The passing score is entirely dependent on the school and the course. Certain schools require higher band scores. Certain courses, certain programs require higher passing scores. But in general, I want to give you an idea. If it's student visa, let's say a diploma course, 5.5 to 6 is enough. If it's bachelor's degree, 6 to 6.5. If it's master's, 6.5 to 7. If it's PhD, 7 to 7.5. But like what I've said, that is not final. So your first step, if it's student visa application, is to pick a school that requires lower band scores. That is, if you don't want to repeat the examination. Let's move on to Canadian working visa. It's usually the employer that determines what grade you need. If you are a skilled worker, some employers are happy with 5. The others require 6. But in my last 15 years of teaching IELTS, I've heard of some skilled workers enrolled at 9er who only need 4.5 in listening, 3.5 in reading, 4 in writing, and 4 in speaking. Wow, sana all. What's 4.5 in listening? Roughly 15 over 40. Class, even if you sleep in the other half of the subtest, you will still get 15 correct answers out of 40 points. What about reading? 3.5. You're going to ask, how on earth do I get 3.5 in reading? My suggestion, don't read anymore. All you have to do is guess. Perhaps you can get 9 correct guesses out of 40 points. What about writing? 4.0. Imagine some employers just require a 4 in writing. Well, 4 in writing if the writing task is unfinished and then you commit grammatical mistakes frequently, maybe, just maybe, you just have to write, okay, I am happy, my mother is happy, my father is happy, I love my happy family, let's go, Canada. Perhaps that's a 4 already. What about speaking? 4.0. Well, as they say, smile is enough to get a 4 in speaking. It's just that I need you to be a little more serious. If you're inside the speaking room, open your mouth. Well, it's better as compared to not saying anything at all. So for our skilled workers, don't be satisfied with 4, 3.5, 4.5 if you can get higher band scores. Now, what about Canadian immigrant visa? Now, this is the tricky part because there's what we call provincial nominee program and federal skilled worker program. If you have a sponsor, so who's the sponsor? It could be a relative, it could be an employer, or it could be a friend. So for provincial nominee program, kindly double check that this specific province in Canada is open for nomination because not all of them are open for nomination. But the moment you qualify for provincial nominee program, most of the time, 5 to 6 is enough. However, what if you're going to tell me, sir, I want to go to Canada. It's just that I don't have an employer. I don't have a relative. I don't have a friend. I want to apply on my own merit. This is when we recommend that you get higher band scores. Why? With higher points in Ielts, higher immigration points, and that means to say more chances that you will be invited by Canadian immigration. Well, the minimum to qualify for that is 6. But we recommend you to get 7.5, 8, 8.5 if you want your chances of being invited by Canadian immigration to be maximized. So Canada is a little more complicated as compared to the United States of America, knowing that for USA, the rules are quite fixed. But for Canada, it's dependent on the visa. What about UK? UK, listening, if you are a nurse, it's 7. So that's roughly 30 or 31. What about Ireland? Ireland accepts minimum of 6.5 in one subtest and then 7 in 3 subtests. So what if it's in listening where you got 6.5? Well, that's 27, 28. Roughly, depending on the difficulty of the material. But if you're targeting Australia or New Zealand, that's when we recommend you to aim for 7 and above. And so what's 7? That's 31 or 32. So ladies and gentlemen, those are the 6 countries that require IELTS. Is this the same in OET? Sir Philip?
When it comes to OET, it's a lot more straightforward. Because OET is focused on healthcare professionals who are using the exam in order to prove their English proficiency to work in a safe manner in delivering healthcare, the standards are quite streamlined. If you're planning to go to New Zealand, Australia, or the UK, the requirement that they have for you to practice there as a nurse at least is a B. So that's non-negotiable. So you have to get a B in order for you to be considered, in order for you to prove your English proficiency. The exception to this is Ireland. If you're planning to go to Ireland, they're very flexible. They're relatively flexible in the sense that you can get a B in 3 subtests and a C plus in 1 subtest. So this C plus can be anywhere. It can be in listening, it can be in reading, it can be in writing, it can be in speaking. So this means, therefore, that if you get a C plus in listening, that's fine. As long as you get at least a B in reading, writing, and speaking. So that's the great thing about Ireland, because they are quite flexible compared to all of the other countries. But for everywhere else, they require a B. So in listening, pretty straightforward. Sir Irvin?
Okay, this time we'll move on to, what's the next? Okay, the main problems. Like what I've said, IELTS listening is almost a giveaway considering that all the answers will be mentioned by the speaker. It's just that there are problems. Why? They're not going to give away that 7 easily. So, problem number 1, short attention span. What's the problem with us people? We lack focus. Remember, in the listening subtest, you get to hear the recording the first and the last time. So if you miss a specific answer, you can't go back to it the second time around. Now, there's just an interesting tidbit that I'd like to share with you. Now, let us check how familiar you are with IELTS. And I need your participation, so get ready with your fingers because I need your answers. Is there a possibility in the listening subtest for the recording to be repeated? What are your options? Yes and no. May I see your answers, please? I repeat, is there a possibility for the recording to be repeated in the listening subtest? Is it a yes or a no? Your responses, please. We want this to be interactive, not just us talking. So, Chadil Custodia said no. What about the others? Edsel John, no. There are 650 of you now, but I'm only seeing a few no's. Okay, Des Celso Tampus, you are right. there is a possibility for the listening recording to be repeated. So now you're going to say, huh? When does this happen? Okay, it works this way. What if there is a technical difficulty in the listening recording? So say for instance, all of a sudden, there's power interruption. Or say for instance, the CD jumped. For some unknown reason, there's a technical difficulty. So what is it that the test supervisor is going to do? The test supervisor is allowed to repeat the entire section, not the entire exam. Let me clarify that. It's only the entire section. So the test supervisor will go back to the beginning of that section. So guys, remember, there are 4 parts, right? If ever there is a technical difficulty that will take place in the listening subtest, in which particular section are you going to pray or hope to a certain extent that a technical difficulty is going to occur? Is it section 1, 2, 3, or 4? Let me see your guesses. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Let's wait until the others are able to type their responses. If ever a technical difficulty happens in listening, in which particular section would you prefer the technical difficulty to occur? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Well, this is Facebook Live, so we're waiting for the new comments to, Section 4, that's Nelly, Placer, Hilario. What about the others? Louis said 3 or 4. Mika, Section 4. Carl Manzano, 3 and 4. Choose one, wag naman both. Philos Jordan, 3 and 4. Claire, okay, 4. Class, it's section 4. In which particular number in section 4? Remember, for section 4, it's 31 to 40. I need you to give me a number from 31 to 40. Will you please tell me which particular number in section 4 would you prefer? The term is prefer the technical difficulty to occur. Again, we're making this interactive. It's so boring if you're just sitting down. We need your thoughts. We need your opinion. We don't want you to just receive information. You're actively engaged tonight. So section 4 is actually correct. We just want you to inform us which particular number. Iya Elangos, until section 4 only, there is no section 5 in Ielts listening. And not section 1, because section 1 is the easiest. So section 4 is usually the most challenging of them all. Which number for section 4? Okay, maybe I cannot wait for the responses. Here we go. Number 40. Imagine if the technical difficulty is going to happen in number 31 and the test supervisor is forced to repeat the entire section. Then, when you listen to it the second time around, you just get the answer that you missed for number 31. Whereas, if the problem happens in number 40 and the test supervisor is required to repeat the entire section, possibly you are going to get the answers that you missed from 31 to 39. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not the best in English, but I'd like to believe I have an elephantine memory. I cannot forget July 28, 2008. What about that historic day? That was when there was a problem in section 4. So, the test supervisor was required to repeat the entire section 4. No wonder why. On that day alone, we had 28 reviewees who got the perfect grade of 9.0 in IELTS listening. So guys, what is my suggestion for you as early as now? For those who are taking the examination in Manila as early as now, look for the sound system operator of Crown Plaza Ortigas, Dusit Thani, where else are the examinations conducted? Heritage Hotel, or what do you call that hotel in Timog? Lakshant Hotel. Look for the sound system operator and then give Kuya 500 pesos prior to the start of the listening test. Don't take me seriously. This is off the record, huh? You might take it against me. Don't take my word for it, but I'm just letting you know this is a joke. We want this to be lively because learning has to be fun. So look for Kuya and then give Kuya 500 pesos. So Kuya, if you feel the recording is about to finish, please unplug. Ay, shit! Nag-brown out. So there you go. You get the answers that you missed from 31 to 39. More ha 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 This is what we are here for. Learning has to be interesting. It has to be exciting. It must not be boring. You are anxious enough because your future is at stake. So what will 9.09er lecturers do? Make it easy for you. It has to be humorous. It has to be funny. At the same time, informative. So that's the case in Ielts listening. In OET listening, is it possible to hear the recording the second time around?
Definitely. If you engage in acts of sabotage, which we of course do not advise you to do, then of course if there's any technical problem, it is advisable for OET to repeat the audio. However, besides this hypothetical and hopefully only once in a lifetime situation, I remember that date very clearly as well. We had so many Niners in listening that day, I believe, sir. Yeah. However, when it comes to OET, the manner in which the test is conducted, and just like in any test, is very important. When it comes to listening, it is important that you're able to focus on what is actually being said, right? Therefore, the environment in which it is conducted must be conducive to you applying the skill. There were instances in the past, like, oh my God, based from the testimonies of some of our Niner students, gosh, while the listening recording was being played, oh God, there is like Backstreet Boys that is being played in the room next door. Like, quit playing games with my heart, with my heart. With my heart, I should have known from the start. Diyos ko Lord, no? Oh my gosh. So that is like totally distracting. Oh gosh. Of course. What's another time? This of course was prior to the pandemic. There were 100 students. There were more than 100 students in a room. The speakers were only at the front, no? So can you imagine who were the only ones who could like hear the sounds properly? The people in front or the people at the back? Who do you think could have heard the audio properly? People in the front or the people at the back? What do you think? No? Who do you think could have properly have had a fair chance in order to understand what was being said? Of course, the people in front. Who could not hear it? The people at the back. When that happened, in fairness, the people at the back, they raised their hand. Ma'am, we cannot hear. And in fairness, what happened there was that they adjusted the volume. So what happened? It was so loud. So therefore, the people in front, ma'am, sabog na nga eh. And the people in the middle were like, perfect. But the people at the back, ma'am, we still can't hear. Do you know what happened? They still went on with the exam. Like, Jesus. No, so that stuff like that should not happen. Stuff like that should not happen. If ever anything like that happens, there is a complaint form in the OET website, which we strongly suggest that you fill out so that it doesn't happen again. Because that was totally unfair. Yeah, that was totally unfair. You work very hard. We see you work hard. We know how hard you work when you like devote time out of your busy schedule to review and to read up on the materials, and then come the actual exam, your grade is gonna be based not on your skill but on your seating arrangement. Excuse me, no? So that was horrible. So that of course is the exception to the rule. The vast majority of the time, the exam is conducted properly and professionally, etc. There's a proper time check at the beginning of the recorder to verify that you could properly hear the audio. However, once in a blue moon, check mo yung moon, baka blue, maybe it might be your exam might be the one that this unfortunate set of circumstances would happen. If ever that's the case, worry not. There is a process in order for you to receive justice for this injustice that was inflicted on you. The people who were victimized at that time, they went through the process and they were given a free retest. So that, of course, is the exception to the rule. What is not exceptional is that when it comes to the difficulties regarding the OET, all the time it's the accent. It's I imagine...
Before we move on to the accent,
Oh.
Can I just interrupt, guys? This is Facebook Live, and if you look at our laptop, can you show them our laptop? Because there's nothing
okay.
there. It's just an outline, okay?
Okay. Okay.
How do we do that? Is it
Yeah,
like this?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, anyway, it's just an outline. We just open our mouth when we talk, okay? So before I forget, this is something very important. Paper-based versus computer-delivered IELTS, and I'm sure you're excited to know about this difference. For computer-delivered IELTS, everyone is provided with individual headsets in listening. Which means to say, you cannot blame the sound system or where you are seated if you're closer to the speaker and so on. However, for paper-based IELTS, there are specific locations that provide individual headsets for everyone. It's just that in certain locations, they use the speaker. So the question is, what about the seat plan, the seating arrangement? You will be arranged alphabetically. So before you enter the examination room, you look at the bulletin board. You look for your name because you are arranged alphabetically, but alphabetical not in a sense that all A's are in front while all Z's are at the back. Alphabetical yet vertical. So how does this work? I'll give you a perfect example. What if your surname is Aquino? The first letter might be A, but the second letter is Q. So there is a tendency for Aquino to be seated at the back. So who is likely seated in front? Most likely if your surname is Abad. But say for instance, you're going to ask me, sir, may mas mauuna pa ba kay Abad? Well, say for instance, your surname is Aardvark. So, hi everyone. Hi guys, I'm Irvin Aardvark. For short, ikaw nasa pinakaharap. 100% sure. Now, what if your surname is, say for instance, Zuniga or Zurbano? There is a possibility for you to be seated at the back. Zacarias also starts with letter Z. But because Zacarias comes before Zuniga and Zurbano, there is a possibility for Zacarias to also be seated in front. So who is going to occupy the very last chair at the back of the ballroom or the session room? If your surname is, like what I've said, Zuniga or Zurbano, may mas likod pa ba ni Zuniga and Zurbano? Say, for instance, your surname is Zygote. Oh, hi, hello, I'm Irvin Zygote. For sure, you're going to occupy the last chair at the back. The question is there a possibility for you to request for a change of seat? The answer is yes. And when are they going to do this? For the first 5 seconds, the test supervisor is going to ask, okay, do you hear this? Is this audible? Is this loud enough? That is the only time you're allowed to raise your hand and call the attention of the test supervisor and say, excuse me, test supervisor, I can't hear it as much from where I am. Will you please transfer me to a chair beside the speaker? Go ahead, no problem with that. You are allowed to do that. Why? You paid a fortune for this examination. 11,300 pesos easily wasted in 3 hours. That is the only time you're allowed to request for a change of seat. But the moment the official listening recording starts, no more transferring of seats. Okay, so I just had to mention that because I might forget about that one, how you are arranged in the listening subtest. So as we were talking about the problems, okay, so here's, I'm saying, ha 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 ha. That's it. I want you to be engaged. I want you to feel that you don't have to be worried. When preparing for the exam, you don't go to class because the lecture is boring. You go to class because, oh, there's something new. There's something funny. Oh, I did not realize it's 8 p.m. already. That's how we do it at 9.09er. We make learning fun. We don't do false claims, false advertising. So as Sir Philip was mentioning earlier, the problem in listening, I'll just get water while Sir Philip talks about another problem in listening.
Spontaneity is one of the main highlights and one of the primary virtues of your review at 9.09er. We try to keep it fun and, as Sir Vin said, accessible. As I was saying earlier, one of the main problems when it comes to listening, both in the IELTS I imagine, but especially as well in the OET, is accent. Now, I imagine that the manner in which I speak to you right now is perfectly understandable. I mean, madali namang mag-gets, di ba? Ngunit sa datapwat. However, this accent might not necessarily be the ones that you are going to be encountering in your own exam. the OET promises that the accents that you will be hearing will be native English accents, like British accents and Australian accents and things like that. These accents take time for you to be familiar with. Because we don't really hear it in our media, in our movies, unless of course you watch Bridgerton all the time, or like The Crown or Downton Abbey. You don't really encounter people who speak in this manner. If you do, then oh my god, good for you. But for the vast majority of the population, this kind of like talking is alien. It's foreign. It's never something that you actually encounter, especially with the Australian accent. That's harder for us to be familiar with, and therefore, though the words are the same, the manner in which they are said could be different. So in order to respond to that, it really comes down to investing the time to listen to the accent so that they won't sound so weird to you. In addition to the accent is the speed. People drown from this flood of language that they hear at high speeds because the kinds of materials, the kinds of audio that you're going to be encountering in the OET are realistic. When it comes to healthcare, when it comes, for example, to doing the work in duty, when it comes to attending to people, they're not going to slow down for you, right? But rather, they're going to be communicating at authentic speed, at a realistic pace. So this means, therefore, that you're gonna have to be used not only to the topics, perhaps, that are discussed, not only with the vocabulary, but also with the pacing that they encounter and that they provide you. This takes time. And in order to resolve this, the primary method for you to not get lost in this flood, in this avalanche of language, is by knowing what to focus on. Each number in your exam comes with keywords. They are always there. These serve as your anchors. These serve as your guideposts so that you know that when you hear this keyword or something that is similar to it, and perhaps it is paraphrased, therefore you know that the answer is somewhere near. So we elaborate on this more during class, of course, but as a nugget, that's the strategy. How to apply this in the specific context of the test, well, that's what our lessons go into with some depth. I imagine that the problems are similar in the Ielts, Irvin?
Okay, so we're going to talk about another problem apart from short attention span and the possibility that the recording is not going to be played the second time around unless there is a technical difficulty. So, accent is really the challenge in the listening subtest. So now, let's go back to IELTS. What's letter I? It's international. A common misconception, only British accent comes out in the IELTS. That is totally wrong. In fact, it's a combination of American accent, British accent, Australian accent. At the same time, I'd like to inform you, there are rare instances when non-native speakers are asked to talk in the listening recording. Sometimes there are Europeans, the Eastern Europeans, say for instance Polish or Romanian or a South African talking in the listening recording. Now, let's talk about the native accents. And once again, I need you to be ready with your fingers because I need audience participation. Of the various native accents, which accent are we Filipinos most familiar with? Is it American? Is it Australian? Is it British? May I see? Response, please. Which accent are we Filipinos most familiar with? American? British? Australian? Okay, so Aid Nix said American. Why the American accent? For obvious reasons. We live in a former American colony, and almost everything in the Philippines is American. Filipinos with good English usually have the American accent. So, this is not something difficult for us because we're exposed to American celebrities, American movies, American series. But what about the British accent? So usually stiff upper lip with teeth clenched. The perfect example, the movie Harry Potter. So I assume that most of you, at least once in your lives, were exposed to Harry Potter, knowing that there were 8 Harry Potter movies. So I just find it quite surreal that we Filipinos would usually get in line. What did I say? I did not say fall in line. Fall in line is very Filipino. You don't fall in line. What are you supposed to say? You get in line, you line up, you follow the queue, but you don't fall in line. So what's quite ironic, we would usually get in line to enter the movie house. But when we are already inside the cinema, this is how we look like when we're watching Harry Potter. Ano daw sabi? It's difficult for us to understand what's going on. How do we know what's happening while watching? We're just looking at the actions. Sino ba tong batang to? Ah, siya pala yung bida. Si Harry Potter. We usually mention his name that way. Or what about the female friend of the central character? Sino tong babaeng to? Ah, si Hermione. But you'll notice that when they talk to each other, it's not as if they mention their names that way. Say, for instance, people in the film would usually say, Mr. Potter. Or, when Harry calls his friend, what is it that he says? Hermione. Or, the mother of Ron, when she calls or looks for Ron, she says, Ronald Weasley, hold that car. The problem is if you're not exposed to British accent. So guys, there's Bridgerton on Netflix. There's Pride and Prejudice. Well, there's The Crown. British accent is quite familiar for a lot of people, but what about the Scottish accent? Well, for Scottish accent, I recommend that you watch Brave. If you're familiar with this animated movie, Brave, this red-haired Scottish princess, I encourage you to watch that. Not really to enjoy it, but to be familiar with the Scottish accent and with the Irish accent. Sir Philip, can you do it a bit for them, please? The Irish accent?
Well, I'll be fucked with all of these language. I can't even do it.
But anyway,
I can do one phrase.
when I went to Ireland, it was a few years ago when I visited some of my former lecturers and former reviewees. So I was quite tired because the flight was delayed. So when I arrived at the hotel, I just said, hello, good evening, I'm checking in, this and that. And then I was greeted, oh, hello, is it the first time here in Ireland? And I was like, nawala yung antok ko, te. Sabi ko, and I just responded, yeah. I said, oh, great, are you having a great time? And I was like, yeah. So I was very hungry. It was like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. already. I had to go out and I had to look for something to feed myself. I was looking for dinner. And then the nearest restaurant was Subway. Char! Promote na ng Subway. If you're from Metro Manila, Subway PITX, Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, and Subway Double Dragon, okay? Managed by my beloved brother, Dan Michael Temporal.
Go Dan.
Hello. So,
Go
as I was saying, we're having a great time, okay? I promise you that it's going to be a feel-good, we just have 3 minutes. Can we extend? Because there's a lot for us to talk about. We have not even entertained questions yet. We're not in a hurry. We're taking our time. This is free for everyone. We want everyone to pass the examination. We want everyone to learn, even those without paying. This is for you guys. Okay, so as I was saying, when I went to Subway, I said, okay, I'm going to get a Subway Club. And then I was greeted. I was greeted by the person. 6 foot. And I was like, well, what are they saying? I thought it's just the girl, the front desk of the hotel that speaks like that. Apparently, it's the case in the entire Dublin. So, these are accents that you have to be familiar with. So, there's the British accent of central London, England. There's the Scottish accent. There's the Irish accent. Well, I tell you guys, we know a lot of British celebrities. Who are the famous British celebrities? There's Adele, Jessie J, Simon Cowell, One Direction. You know a lot of them. But what about Australian accent? Well, who are the most famous Aussies we know? Wolverine, Hugh Jackman is Australian. Hemsworth brothers, Thor is Australian. Nicole Kidman, right? There's Danny Minogue, Kylie Minogue. So, how do we Filipinos greet each other? We say, good day, mate. But in Australia, that's not good day, mate. It's g'day, mate. So, we Filipinos say today, but over there it's today. We Filipinos say yesterday, but over there it's yesterday. So I'd like to share with you something that I personally encountered when I went to Hungary. This was shared to us by our tour guide. So at one point, there was this Aussie tourist who flew all the way to Budapest. It's not Budapest, it's Budapest for the locals. And then this Australian tourist fell in love with the marvelous architectural masterpiece that is the Parliament. He wanted to take a photo of the entire Parliament using his phone, and he wanted it to fit in one frame. So he tried to walk back until such time that he did not realize he's already in the middle of the street. And there was this Hungarian cab driver who was so frustrated because he was about to kill the Australian by accident. What the Hungarian cab driver did was to go out of the car, call the attention of the Aussie and said, "Excuse me, did you come here to die?" What was the response of the Aussie? No, mate, I came here to die. Because apparently they did not understand each other. What's the point of the Hungarian driver? He was actually saying in Tagalog, "Hi! Pumunta ka ba dito para magpakamatay?" To die, as in T-O-D-I-E. But that's not exactly the understanding of the Australian. What's the understanding of the Australian? Well, friend, kailan ka dumating dito? Ngayong araw ba na to? To die, as in T-O-D-A-Y. So what's the response of the Aussie tourist? No, mate, I came here, to die. So apparently, this is a problem in real life. And now you're going to ask, so how come they are still assessing our listening skills? Because when you go to these countries and you're going to work there, especially if you're a healthcare professional, there is a possibility for you to kill the patient by accident just because you did not understand the instruction that was given by the doctor. That is the point of the listening subtest. So now, what about the accent of New Zealand? I'm sure you know a lot of Americans, Aussies, and Brits, but what about people from New Zealand? So, when I went to Auckland, I spoke to this school representative, Maura, and this is what I've noticed, how she mentions certain countries in Europe. So guys, pay attention. Here we go. Number 1, Denmark. Number 2, Finland. Number 3, Czech Republic. So guys, what did you notice? Denmark, that's Denmark. Number 2, Finland, that's our Finland. Number 3, Czech Republic, that is our Czech Republic. And what did you notice? That in New Zealand, I is not necessarily I and E is not necessarily E. And what did you notice? I becomes E and E becomes I. So, when you go to New Zealand, how do people say the word bike? Naging Becky na ang bike, right? Because I becomes E and E becomes I. I am just letting you know that there are certain words which are not mentioned in the same way all over the world. And these are the nuances that we discuss in class. So 9.09er discusses these in the lecture. So please do not expect that we're going back to the basics. Okay, class, what is a noun? What is a verb? You're not going to pay 4,000 pesos for the teacher to tell you what is a noun. What is a verb? We expect that to a certain extent our students have upper intermediate level in English. So what is it that we talk about in the listening lecture? The nuances over there. Say for instance you are in Australia and you hear in the listening recording the speaker saying, "It's 5:30 in the hour. 5:30 in the hour." Filipinos usually say 5:30 p.m. But in Australia, it's 5:30 in the hour because hour in Australia means afternoon. Also, what about the word singer? We Filipinos say singer, but for other nationalities, they say singer. Or the word schedule. Like the Americans, we say schedule. But when you call our hotline or when you call our mobile number, if you want to practice speaking in the Australian accent or the British accent, when you call me, "Oh, hello, Sir Irvin, will you please give me the review schedule?" What about potato? Potato, potato, these, thus. These are the nuances that we teach our students in class. Or what about loo? The word loo also means toilet. What else? Z, 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 or zero could be nil, could be null, could be not. H for other nationalities could be H. All these and more we talk about in class. Brolly, I forgot to mention that. It means umbrella. Will you please turn on the telly? Telly, television. Open the window. That's window. All these and more we expect to talk about in class. So that's the solution. We provide you with an expectation such that when you encounter it in the actual examination, you won't be surprised because Niner already prepared you for what's going to possibly happen in the actual examination. So we have discussed problems, we've discussed solutions. What about remark? Sir Philip, do you encourage our candidates in Ielts and OET to apply for remark or recheck? What's your opinion, Sir Philip?
Definitely not. The four subtests that are tested in both the Ielts and the OET can be classified into two: receptive on one hand and productive on the other. The receptive skills are listening and reading. They're called receptive because the answers are actually already being given to you. In listening, the answers are said through the audio. In reading, the answers are already written down. So, hindi mo kailangang umenglish, ikaw yung ini-English. You don't have to produce language, but you're the one who has to receive the language. And therefore, this means that there's only one correct answer. For example, multiple choice. A, B, C. If the answer is B and you wrote B, then this means that you have 1 point. If the answer is B and you wrote C, then that means that you don't have a point. So therefore, there's no discussion, there's no debate, there's no dialogue. It's not, it depends. It's very clear cut. And because of this, it really makes very little sense for you to apply for a remark. Because applying for a remark means that you're asking the organization, either Ielts or OET, to take a second look at your performance. Maybe you say that you deserve a higher grade. This makes more sense for the productive skills, for example, writing and speaking, because there you are the one who has to produce language, and the grade that you get necessarily is a judgment call that has to be done by your examiners. There's no one correct way in order for you to score well. There's no one correct sequence of words that you need to provide in order to get the grade that you need. It depends. However, in listening and in reading, not really. Precisely because there's only one answer, because the answers come from the test. So therefore, if you fail, knock on wood, if you fail in listening, usually the better answer is for you to study, identify where you went wrong, work on these areas, and then try again. Don't remark. It's going to be a waste of money. It's going to be a waste of time. However, what's going to be a greater waste of time is if you allow this failure to determine your future. It's easy to give up. It's easy for you to be disheartened by setbacks such as this. However, I would like to point out, and Niner likes to point out, that before you came to this point in your life, you've had lots of failures yourself already. Isn't that true? I mean, you have lots of decisions that you regret. There are many things that you could have done better. You have failed many times before, and yet here you still are, trying, right? Doing your best, refusing to let your past determine your future. So therefore, if ever you do not get the grade that you need in listening, that's okay. Try again. Don't remark, but do try again. Identify where you went wrong and do better. There are the organizations that you submit your grade to, they don't care how many times you have taken the test before. Whether you passed it the first time, the second time, the third time, the fifth time, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you submit to them grades that are acceptable. Therefore, if it takes you 5 times, 4 times, 3 times, 2 times, 1 time, doesn't matter. What matters is that you do your best and that you refuse to let setbacks determine your future. So, remark, no. Giving up, super no. You keep trying, if ever that happens. Sir Irvin?
So, Sir Philip just mentioned we do not recommend remark in listening and reading. That's for both IELTS and OET. However, on February 28th, that's our IELTS and OET speaking masterclass. That's when you'll totally understand why 9.09er is pro remark in writing and speaking. So, the only difference between IELTS speaking, IELTS remark and OET remark. In IELTS remark, there are only two possibilities after the process. Either the score goes up or remains as is. It will never go down. So, if the score goes up, you'll get a full refund of what you've paid for. If the score does not change, they keep the money. Now, another question that people ask, does it matter if in IELTS I'm going to apply for a remark of just one subtest or all four subtests? It's exactly the same remark fee. So I vehemently recommend that you apply for remark for both writing and speaking because you'll never know. If one of the two grades increase after the process known as recheck, you're going to get a full refund. Well, if it does not change, at least you tried. I am a person who is always willing to take risks, and I want my students to have that in mind. Because applying for remark in writing and speaking and it turned out that you're not successful in the end is a lot better than just sitting down wondering what could have been if I applied for remark. So there you go, straight from the horse's mouth. We do not recommend remark or recheck in listening and reading, but definitely it's a big yes for the subjective components of speaking and writing. Now we're down to our last topic, combination of results. So Sir Philip will talk about OET combination of results. Then I'll talk about IELTS combination of results. And guys, get ready with your questions because we're so excited to answer them for you. Preferably ask questions related to listening. If you have reading questions in mind, wait until next week. If you have speaking questions in mind, wait until February 28th. If you have writing questions in mind, the Saturday after that, March 6th. So, Sir Philip, what about combination of results in OET?
Ideally, of course, you wouldn't need to combine your scores in the first place because you already would have gotten the grades that you needed from your first attempt. However, if ever it does happen that you do not get the grades that you need, that's fine. But it depends on whether you could still use these grades, depend on which country you plan to go to. When it comes, as Sir Irvin mentioned earlier, when it comes to Ireland, they do not accept any combination of grades. Combining grades, that's what they call clubbing. You can't, clubbing, like you put stuff together. For Ireland, that's not an option. You have to get the grades that you need in one sitting. So if there's a subtest that you failed at, that's okay. Focus on that, try again. This is not the case, however, when it comes to Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. When it comes to Australia and New Zealand, you may still combine your grades from the first exam that you took in which you failed in one subtest or more, and then the succeeding one. However, you have to make sure that you have no grade lower than C. So, reminder, OET, you get grades in OET depending from a scale of 0 to 500. A, B, C plus, C, D. Now, if you get a C anywhere, that's still fine when it comes to Australia and New Zealand. However, if you get a D anywhere, sorry, the entire thing cannot be used anymore. This is not the case when it comes to the UK. They're stricter in the sense that you have to have no grade lower than C+. So this means, therefore, if you're headed to the UK and you plan to take the OET and you get a C, then sorry, you can't use these grades. In addition, for these countries, the only tests that you may combine are the ones that happen within 6 months of each other. The rationale behind that is that English is a skill. If you don't use it, you lose it. So, therefore, any test result that's more than 6 months into the past, that's ancient history anymore. That's not your language anymore. We can't be sure that is an accurate reflection of your current proficiency with English. So, therefore, if you do fail hopefully you don't. But if you do fail in the exam, then it is in your best interest to take your next exam within as fast as you can, no? At least within the 6-month period, if you can still combine it. So there are these things to consider. Again, hopefully you don't have to. And that is why we truly recommend, before you apply for an exam, make sure that you are properly prepared. That's what our coaches are for. For listening and reading, you could more or less assess yourselves. However, when it comes to writing and speaking, we do have a strong team of coaches, of people who have taken the test, gotten stellar marks themselves, who know what they're talking about, and who could perhaps provide you with guidance to give you, to allow you to make an informed choice about whether it makes sense for you, given your current skills, to register for the test already. But if ever again, if you do not get the grades that you need, when it comes to Ireland, you may not combine. When it comes to Australia and New Zealand and the UK, all of them, your grades have the marks that you're gonna combine have to happen within 6 months of each other. For Australia and New Zealand, no grade lower than C. For the UK, no grade lower than C+. Very straightforward. Is it something like this as well, Sir Urban, when it comes to the Ielts?
Okay, so for the record, in the Ielts, Canada and Ireland do not accept combination of results. For USA, nurses are allowed to combine 2 results, okay? 1 result with a 7 in speaking and 1 result with a 6.5 overall band score. Both of them must still be valid. One could be from IDP, one could be from British Council. It really doesn't matter, for as long as 1 result shows a 7 in speaking, 1 result 6.5 overall, and both results are still valid. What about Australia? Australia allows combination of results provided that you are able to get 7 in all 4 components within 6 months. So that's the grace period. However, Australia will only accept the score will only accept a specific result for combination if the lowest in any subtest is 6.5. Please be advised, if in your first IELTS you got a 7 in listening, 7 in reading, 6.5 in writing, a 7 in speaking, in your next attempt, then you have to aim for a 6.5 in listening, 6.5 in reading, a 7 in writing, and 6.5 in speaking. But what if in one of those subtests you got 6.0? You cannot use that result for combination. What if you are going to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland? So, the requirement 7 in listening, 7 in reading, 6.5 in writing, a 7 in speaking. So, it's like Australia. You have to get the required band scores within 6 months. And what's the other condition? No grade lower than 6.5 in any subtest. So what if in your first IELTS, you got a 7 in listening, a 7 in reading, 6.5 in writing, and a 6.5 in speaking? Then it means to say in your next attempt, 6.5 in listening, 6.5 in reading, still 6.5 in writing, and your speaking must be 7. The important reminder, if it's UK, overall band score must be 7. New Zealand accepts multiple results for as long as you're able to prove that you got 7 in all of the components. That is the requirement of New Zealand Nursing Council. So let's have a rundown of what we have talked about for tonight. So we started with the format, the points, the time, what else? The passing score per country, and visa. And then we talked about the main problems, the possible solutions, and snippets of what we discussed in class. Apparently, we cannot say everything here. We are just giving ourselves 1 hour to help you and pass the listening subtest. The rest will be discussed in class. And then, we talked about remark. We talked about combination of results. So now, we're opening the floor for all questions, clarifications related to IELTS, OET. Preferably stick to the listening subtest. Reserve your questions for reading next week, February 13, and speaking February 28, writing March 6. Okay, so while waiting for the questions, are you happy with our time together tonight? Please react by responding heart, 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 or haha, or care, or like.
Well, I'm sure that I had fun, Sir Irvin. It's always a pleasure here helping our students.
Well, if you enjoyed our class for tonight, why don't you pay it forward by sharing this one on your Facebook account? You post it on your Facebook wall. You have nothing to lose, but you only have friends to gain. Why? Considering that you're helping them in getting the required band score, it's totally free. And if you think that this is not enough, well, we already have 40 videos on YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe to 9.09er IELTS OET PDE on YouTube. You know, it is the legitimate, it's the genuine channel because it's the one with more than 8,500 subscribers in the last 5 months. And don't forget to download our mobile app. Look for us on App Store and Google Play, 9.09er IELTS OET PTE. So 9.09er is not just about Irvin Temporal or Philip Aitona. Sir Brian Martin Shawson is the head of our online review team. He is responsible for our YouTube channel, for our IT department. He's the one responding to the emails. He's the one in charge of our website. So Sir Brian got 9.0 in all components. Well, I got a 9 in listening, 9 in reading, 9 in speaking, but I wasn't able to get a 9 in writing. But my 8 in writing is decent enough. Sir Philip got 9 overall, 9 in speaking, 9 in listening, 9 in reading, and an 8 in writing. But Sir Brian got 9 in writing, 9 in speaking, 9 overall, 9 in listening, 9 in reading. We also have equally credible coaches. The requirement is for them to have passed the examination because they cannot teach at Niner without acing the test. Do we have questions here, guys? I'm just seeing, thank you. No questions? Are you kidding me? Well, if you're too shy, you can send an email. That's training@nineronlinereview.com. Or you can message this Facebook account. Right after this one, we're going to publish it. So sharing is caring, especially if you find the information helpful. Or even if you're done with IELTS, but you just thought that there are friends of yours who feel that they're the vermin of the society. They need inspiration. They feel like an unwanted leper, less than a man. But 9.09er, here we are. We're going to help you unlearn what is wrong. We have to know what you don't know to be wrong, and we have to correct it. We have to learn it the right way. I would like to clarify, is it okay to use capitalization when answering? I did not see the name anymore, but yes, you're allowed to use all caps in listening, reading, and writing. Okay? Is that applicable in OET as well?
Definitely.
So all caps, listening, reading, writing, IELTS, and OET, applicable. More questions? Chrissy, looking forward to next sessions. Oh, sure, that's next week, Saturday. Tell your friends to like and follow our channel. Sked of OET review. We have weekday batches. We have weekend batches. If you cannot see the sked on our Facebook wall, you can just email. You can just send us a message. Test Center provide piece of paper for listening. If I were to take computer-based, well, it depends on the test supervisor. Some test supervisors give scratch papers, the others don't. But you can use the paper-based answer test booklet for you to write, for you to take notes. For computer-delivered IELTS, it's a matter of asking your test supervisor politely, "Sir, ma'am, will you please give me a scratch paper because I think it will help me in getting my target band score. You know, my future is at stake here. I want to help my family." So you do the drama, okay? Can we have free Macau milk tea? No.
No more.
Sorry.
Okay.
When it comes to dates, what format should we write? It's always best to look at the format on the test booklet. You can't get it wrong if you follow the format that you see on the test booklet. When answering time and listening, do I need to write 5 p.m. or 5? Well, it depends. If it says blank PM, 5 is enough. However, if you just see blank, it's important that you indicate PM or AM. What else? We have one-on-one coaching? Of course. That's what we live for. We conduct one-on-one every day, Monday to Saturday, as early as 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Now tell us if you want coaches from 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. I micromanage. I get to respond to all the messages. I get to look at the demand for coaching. Tell us what you need, and maybe, just maybe, we can give it to you guys. What do I prefer, paper-based or computer-based IELTS? Well, Sir Brian is technologically savvy. He prepares computer-delivered IELTS. I am a technological idiot, so to speak. I prefer papers. But ask yourself, are you that familiar with a QWERTY keyboard? Then go for computer-delivered IELTS because they use exactly the same material. It doesn't mean that it's easier to pass if you go for one version of the test or the other because it's exactly the same material used by Cambridge. Honey, is it pa? Willie, Lazo, Elomina. How about one word and or a number? We discussed that in class, but you have to be careful that you don't write more than the required number of words. So if it says a word and slash or a number, one word, one number, that's fine. Okay? Honey, Alexis, Aaron, is it possible for online class for OFW enrollees? Yes, we have enrollees from all continents except for Antarctica. So in Africa, we have students from Libya, Namibia, Ethiopia, and South Africa. For South America, we have students from Brazil and Suriname, and also the Caribbean. For North America, we have reviewees from US and Canada. And for Europe, we have reviewees from almost all countries. And for Asia, definitely more than 80% of the countries in Asia, we have enrollees from there. Because they're recorded versions of the class anyway. You can watch these recorded versions in the event that you miss the live and interactive online class. Do you advise to write the answers in listening directly to the answer sheet? Well, it's best that you answer first on the test booklet because you're given 10 extra minutes after the recording for you to transfer your answers. So what's the use of that 10 minutes if you're going to directly answer on the answer sheet? So I'd rather that you answer first on the test booklet than transfer your answers later on. Is it true that you only have to choose how you will write your answer? If your answer in all caps, all should be capital and the same if lowercase. Okay, if you write in all caps, make it consistent from beginning to end. If you choose to write in lowercase, you must know when to capitalize. So that's the tricky part right there. If you are quite not that confident of your familiarity with capitalization rules, then I'd rather that you go for all caps from beginning to end, from listening to reading and writing. For group promo, does it include both IELTS and OET? Okay, you choose one, but if you want to upgrade to 3-in-1 package, you can just message us. For nurses, which is advisable, IELTS or OET, where our target is Europe? Well, it's usually writing, which is the most challenging subtest. So if you want to check, we have OET writing video, we have IELTS writing video on our YouTube channel. Watch both, and after that, you decide. Are you the type of person who's willing to deal with line graphs, bar graphs, pie charts, tables, diagrams? I'd say go for IELTS. But if you cannot remember the last time, for the life of you, you cannot remember when was the last time that you had to deal with a line graph, bar graph, but you're quite familiar with the hospital setup, then that's when we recommend that you take OET. 9.09 will not promote or endorse a specific examination, but we want you to assess your individual skill. And from there, we maximize your chances of getting the target band score thanks to your decision, your preferred English examination. What else? Are they strict with erasures? Well, in IELTS, it's a human being checking the answers. What about in OET, Sir Philip? Is it a human being checking the answers?
It is.
Okay, so yeah, you can possibly erase. It's just, yeah, you can erase, but it's not something that we recommend because it doesn't look really tidy if there are plenty of erasures. It won't affect your grade per se, but we want you to be organized. You can just cross it out with one line. Capital, all caps in computer-based IELTS. Yes, Aileen? How to identify keywords in the IELTS? I think keywords, that's in reading. We'll focus on that next week. But in listening, there might be keywords, but they're very obvious. Like they're in your face.
Yeah.
Okay?
In order po ba yung listening?
Okay, to answer Claire's question, I guess Sir Philip is the better person to address this.
Definitely, of course. The answers will be mentioned in order. They are not going to try to confuse you by giving you the answer to 1, then 2, then 5, then 3, then 4, then 6. Of course not. Because that would mean that your grade would be dependent not on your listening skill, but rather on your ability to jump around a piece of paper. So, of course, your answers will be given in order.
Okay, do you advise? Yeah, I think I've answered the question of Sam Samantha. Flory Ann Gersi, I like the way you speak, sir. How to be you? Sana ganyan din ako. Is it Sir Irvin or Sir Philip? To be honest, I envy Sir Philip's delivery. He is very calm, he is very composed, and his choice of words, they just come out naturally. In my case, sometimes I'm having a difficulty in looking for the right word. However, I guess I have my own charm in delivery, and more than that, we are not just English speakers here. We are to inspire. We are here as your guidance counselors, your guardian angels. How you will write. Is it true that you only have to choose how you will... we've answered that already. In OET, if we spell the word wrong, what's the opinion of Sir Philip?
It depends on whether the meaning changes. They're not very strict with spelling as long as you are able to communicate what you need to communicate. For example, paracetamol can be spelled as paracetamol or paracetamol or paracetamol. Pneumonia can be spelled as pneumonia or pneumonia because it is clear what you're trying to get across. However, if the meaning changes because of your wrong spelling, well, that's when you get a -1. For example, if the answer is complementary therapy, but you answered complementary therapy, that would be more problematic. And that is why you were given 2 minutes at the end of the exam to check your answers. Of course, you're not expected to memorize the listening, so it's the content that's already there. But you are expected to go over the manner in which you wrote the answers and spelling in that sense, and checking whether it makes sense within the context of the situation that you're presented with is part of what you check during the last 2 minutes.
Okay, SJ Peñaranda. Sir, I am new. I was just enrolled in your OET online class. I don't know where and how to start. Well, earlier, Sir Brian conducted the free orientation for the new enrollees. If you missed that, I'm 100% sure there's an email sent to you for the instructions. Now, if you are taking OET, I recommend that you attend Sir Brian's OET online review class tomorrow. He'll be handling the class from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. If I'm not mistaken, he's going to talk about speaking tomorrow. All you have to do is to go to your OET online review dashboard. You can access this using the website or the mobile app. Just email training@nineronlinereview.com for the Zoom link. Danica, is there an OET exam conducted in Monarch Hotel? Where is Monarch Hotel?
I have no idea. Are you even in the Philippines? Like, is that in the Philippines? Is that in Metro Manila? Where is that? Wherever that is, it really shouldn't matter where the location is because you will be informed well ahead of time by the testing hub that you registered with where the exam would be conducted. For example, when I last took my OET, my written tests were scheduled in Dusit Thani Hotel. My listening, reading, and writing, what happened there? Dusit Thani is right beside the MRT Ayala station. My speaking test was a 2-minute walk away at Holiday Inn, right behind Glorieta 2. And I was informed more than a week ahead of time, so you will be told as well where your exam will be held. So in that case, that's something that you can, that would not be a problem for you to know.
Okay, maybe we can entertain like 5 more questions. I'm excited to know more, and so are we. Are they face-to-face classes in Quezon City? Well, face-to-face classes at Picampa, España, Manila. If not accessible, then the option is online review. The mere fact that you're able to learn from us using the internet tonight, that is more than enough reason for you to consider the online classes. You don't have to think of transportation, no exposure to COVID, no traffic. All you have to do is to go online and voila, here we are. We can communicate with each other live and interactive for that matter. Muzan, hi. Should we choose American and Brit spelling? It's up to you which one you're more comfortable with. Both are accepted in IELTS listening, reading, and writing for as long as it has to be consistent. When you start with American spelling, make it American all throughout. If you start with British, make it British all throughout. Angelica, there is a site that I can recommend. Just message me. Okay, no OET in Pangasinan, sorry. Okay, JR Recto, possible to move the scheduled IELTS exam if you are hospitalized on the day of the exam, if someone died in the family, or if you have COVID. So you don't want someone dying just because you are not prepared. You don't want to have COVID. You'd rather, God forbid, fail in IELTS than have COVID. So the moment you schedule, there's no turning back. For webinars, can we still access the Miss class? Definitely, because we have recorded versions thanks to our dashboard. It has more than 100 hours of recorded classes in IELTS, and for OET, more than 80 hours already, and we're promising to give you something new each month to make your money's worth. You enrolled not because of the promo, you enrolled not because of an ad, but you enrolled because of the quality of the program, the caliber of the lecturers, and the reputation of the center. Available IELTS test in July. Well, every single day, IELTS computer delivered examination is available in Ortigas and BGC. So if it's July, if there won't be any ECQ by then, let's pray that everything will fall into place. But you know what, ECQ, GCQ, these are temporary setbacks, and I tell you, breakdowns happen so that they can lead to breakthroughs. Things fall apart so that they can fall in place. Yes to ECQ, yes to GCQ. Hopefully, the situation will get better in the next few months so that there will still be IELTS examinations conducted in July. Oh, that's Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Sir Brian.
Okay, is there OET exam in Davao? Yes. You just have to look at the website of OET. So there you go. We've addressed all your questions. This is Sir Philip.
Hi.
And this is Sir Irvin. Thank you for your time. Please don't forget to share to help your friends who are preparing for IELTS, OET, and PTE. If also they want to be entertained, you can share this as well. 9.09er wishes you the best in your English exam preparation and in your visa application. We are 9.09er at your service. We are happy to assist. Thank you.